accessing our true abundant essence is all about how we embrace our story. How do we embrace the human life that we've been given? And how do we embody this being that has chosen us, that our spirit has chosen, that has been divinely created so that we can be on this earth doing our mission and helping others like we're designed to be. So I want to share a little bit about my story with you so that you can have an understanding of where my true abundant essence comes from and what drives me, what my mission is, what my vision is for this world. And hopefully that will give you greater insight into all that I am and maybe even a little bit of inspiration for who you are stepping into. So I often start with birth because it seems logical. I guess I could start with past lives, but I've decided this lifetime is enough of a story for me to really tell. In this lifetime, I was born on an organic blueberry farm in Georgia, outside of Atlanta, and I had what might be considered a very idyllic life. I feel incredibly grateful to have grown up surrounded by Mother Nature. I sometimes even say that I was raised by dogs because at any given time we had 6 to 8 dogs, a whole pack on our farm, and I slept outside with the dogs, I played with the dogs, they were my closest friends and confidants. And when I was about 4 years old, I watched my older brother graduate from boot camp in the Marine Corps. And I looked at my dad and I was like, look, there are girl ones. And there was a female platoon walking across the field. And it was in that moment that I decided I would be a Marine, just like my older brother, just like my father. And when I was 12, I learned about the Naval Academy and set my sights on going there and decided that that's what I would be doing with my life, was to serve in the military as an officer. So I spent a little bit of time in high school in China, learning Chinese and understanding the Eastern way of being. And after that, the cultural shock was not actually going to China. It was coming from China, straight from my graduation to the Naval Academy, going from abundant freedom of living by myself in a foreign country to military academy. Very little freedom there. And I went through the Naval Academy, really enjoyed my time there. I met a man that I fell deeply in love with and had a beautiful love story with, who I married at the end of my time of college. And then I went into the military and I went on a couple of deployments to Afghanistan, where I learned the true nature of war. And ironically, I found myself all through this time, I would teach yoga to people. I was starting to dabble in meditation. I always found myself to be like the hippie of the Marines, if that's possible. And I even started a lot of organizations and groups and workshops around women's empowerment and gender parity in the workplace, because I found that there was such a need for it in that industry. And when I finally decided to get out, after meeting the second love of my life and the man that I am partnered with now, we met in Afghanistan. We were both married, but we fell deeply in love with each other. And we decided that our life would be a little less traditional from that day going forward. I went to work in the corporate world and I had a couple of jobs there. And in that period of time, I really began to discover, who is Susannah? Who am I? And I began to experience and experiment with plant medicine, and to begin to get to know deeper layers of myself, and to begin to even remember memories that I had lost from my childhood, from times when I realized that there were elements of my childhood that were deeply traumatizing, of growing up in a household with explosive emotions, with borderline personality tendencies in both my mother and my sister. There was a lot of lack of safety in my life, and so I was drawn and magnetized to the chaos, especially the chaos of war. And what I discovered in that journey was that I do work in the healing realm. That is my magic. And the journey to discover that also meant that I had to begin to shed and leave behind everything that I knew. I had to quit my job. I had to break up with a bunch of my friends. I had to move. It was a journey. It was quite an endeavor. But I have always been one that when my intuition says go, we got to do it. It's time. And that ultimately led me to working with 5-MeO-DMT and then doing a sacred ceremony with mushrooms, and ultimately awakening to the truth that I do healing work. And in the midst of all of that, I was meditating on a mountain, and I had this enlightenment experience where energy came through me and it felt like a tornado. And it said, Susannah, you are perfect for this work. You are a priestess. You come from a line of priests and priestesses in your lineage. Do not forsake who you are. Remember who you are. And I had a death experience with 5-MeO-DMT in which my ego shed away. And then I had another death experience later with DMT again that said, remember, don't forget. You are special. You are important. And the more I leaned into that voice and that message, the more my whole life came into alignment. And I began to meet all the right people, all the perfect people to help this vision come to life. And the right places aligned, and they just came in to our field so perfectly that I couldn't say no. So I invite you to take one step closer to your true abundant essence. If you haven't already, maybe you're already there and you're just seeking even more expansion. I find that even though I am living my purpose work and doing my purpose every day, I am still stepping closer into my true abundant essence. So I invite you in to dive a little deeper, to open your heart, open your mind, open your soul. And I give you the biggest welcome, knowing that you are so held, knowing that you are loved, you are honored for all that you are, and then some. Thank you for showing up for yourself, for your family, for this world. We need you.